Hi, everybody.
Hello.
So Human Resources was kind enough to invite us out to do this telephone conference, which we're happy to be here to answer your questions about gender identity and biology and how it may affect you as nurses trying to deliver high-quality care to your patients.
So I was thinking that I'll take the first couple of questions, and then we'll have the other couple of questions. We got to keep this short here. I know time is money, but here we go. So you there.
What is the difference between sex and gender?
That's a good question.
Yeah, and I get that one a lot. And for me, it's basically goes down to sex being, think of it as biological. So when we're born, we are born with reproductive functions, things like hormones, even down to the molecular level. So for example, women have generally when they're born, they'll have two X chromosomes, whereas men have an X and a Y chromosome. So when it comes to the sex portion of it, that's how I would define it. And gender is where it gets more complex here. Think of it as like a social constructed situation here. It's behavioral, it's a lifestyle. Even something as life experiences will kind of classify these genders in that sense. So I think that was a great question, but that's kind of how I would define it. But we'll go ahead and we'll go with this one here.
As nurses, what are some important biological and behavioral differences that you need to identify between males and females that are crucial for providing adequate care?
Oh,
Wow.
They really came prepared for this interview. I'm kind of excited.
That was a tough one. I'm not going to lie, but there are a lot of different biological and behavioral differences. Typically, when you have a preventative care, for example, lost my train of thought there. Sorry. You will, try to be a little more nervous when you're someone, for example, let's say of a transgender, getting to do these preventative maintenance measures. Drug prescriptions is another good example. Typically it's been shown that male people are able to kind of handle, or even because of the bigger nature, handle more of a drug prescription than a particular woman would. So you have to kind of take that into consideration. Even health insurance is a big deal here, especially when it comes to transgender patients. I remember having to take care of a patient that was transgender. He was a male that was becoming female and wanted to have a surgery done to remove a certain particular body part. And the insurance company would not approve him because they just didn't approve having these particular surgeries done. And so I think the complexity of this gender role here is a pretty serious issue. And I think when coming down the line, I feel that we're getting a little bit better and better at this, but at the moment it's still a tough situation, and some issues still need to be addressed.
That was a sad case.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, but he was strong, so we kind of went around it in different ways. So, all right, we'll go ahead and we'll do this person here.
How does a lack of gender-based prevention, management, and therapy negatively impact care for males and females?
Finally, an easy one for me. I think I'll take that one. Okay?
I think that's not very fair. I had that tough one.
So, despite what someone chooses as their gender, we still need to think about treating the biology. Okay, so women and men have different risk factors, for example. And so we need to make sure that we're identifying cancers in men because men are actually more likely to get cancer, for example. And
That's true.
we need to think about how we look for heart disease in women who in biological women who identify as males, because women biologically are more likely to have heart disease. So
It's almost like a one size does not fit all.
exactly.
All right, I think we have time for one more question here, so we're going to go ahead and pick that guy over there.
Would you help me identify some new approaches to gender-based care?
So yeah, great question. And there's really a lot of options here, but I can give you a few. All right. So it's important that we think about introducing gender sensitivity training programs into your employer. This can help reduce fear and ignorance, and we all know that if we reduce the fear in treating people, we reduce the ignorance in treating people, that's going to improve their quality of care. Okay, if we know how to take care of someone, then they're going to have a much better quality experience when they come to see us. So how can we do that though? We can do online training modules. They can be incorporated into new employee training. They can also be incorporated into annual competencies. So it's just going to be seamless for people. They're just going to open their internet training and they're going to see that they have a new gender-based module there. You can also do things like changing the forms when patients check in to include what's their gender identity, what's their biological identity, and what's their preferred name and preferred pronoun. Identifying people by the way that they want to be identified is important in building rapport.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one.
Just one more thing I'd like to add. For instance, in the state of Oregon, they've adopted a policy where when you get your license at the DMV, instead of putting male or female, you can choose to put an X. And that way, that doesn't pin you in either male or female.
Yeah, that'd be kind of nice when you go to the ER, for example, and you're being checked in. Rather than having 40-year-old male or 40-year-old female, it would be able to kind of identify a little bit more of what that person would identify as. So that's kind of cool.
It at least clues the healthcare workers in.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for kind of taking that time and short amount of time here to have these questions answered by us. I'm sorry that we were not able to attend in person, but if you definitely have any other questions, we'll kind of leave you our information here. Just email us and let us know what else you have here. But other than that, I think that'll do it.
Thanks, guys.